During World War II, a Nazi German submarine named U-1206 was hiding in the North Sea. Below it was the terror of the deep ocean, and above it, British aircraft were patrolling. At that very moment, the submarine's captain tried to use the toilet, but accidentally opened the wrong valve. Within seconds, seawater rushed into the vessel, reached the batteries, and started producing chlorine gas. Forced by the situation, the submarine had to surface, right where the British Navy and Air Force were on high alert. The moment they saw it, they attacked. The submarine was destroyed, and all the crew members were taken prisoner. At depths of around 200 meters, there is absolutely no room for mistakes in a submarine. Even the smallest error can become a message of death. It is often said that a submariner's real enemy is not someone outside, but his own mind. Their entire world is just a steel tube, moving silently hundreds of meters below the ocean. Above them, the crushing weight of water. Below, the silence of death. And in between, a human being. The crew living inside don't stay for days, but for months underwater. In 2024, HMS Vengeance set a new record by staying underwater for 2,001 days. But this raises a question. How do submariners survive more than 7 months in the deep ocean? How do they manage food, water, and most importantly, oxygen? What happens to toilets and waste deep underwater? And if something goes wrong, like it did with U-1206, what options do they have? People often think submarines are luxury vessels where every comfort is available. But in reality, being cut off from the rest of the world deep under the ocean is one of the biggest challenges, even if you're inside a 5-star suite. The truth is, a submarine is nothing less than a coffin. It's a narrow tube designed to hide and move deep underwater. Inside, the space is so tight that 2 people can barely walk past each other. We're talking about naval submarines, which may look huge from the outside, but inside, they contain engines, months of supplies, and surprisingly, space for over 130 crew members. For comparison, a normal prison cell gives a prisoner about 80 square feet of space, but in a submarine, each crew member gets only about 20 square feet. So it wouldn't be wrong to say submariners are not on a mission, but on a 6-7 month confinement. There is no concept of privacy here. Each person's personal space is limited to their shoulders. At every moment, shoulders are bumping into each other. And this is where the first challenge begins: claustrophobia. It's a condition where a person feels fear in tight spaces, leading to panic attacks, increased heart rate, and poor decision-making. That's why during Navy selection, claustrophobia is carefully observed. Even the slightest signs, and the candidate is rejected. The next challenge is sleep. If you have your own private bed, consider yourself lucky. Because in submarines, there is no such thing. Beds are like tight bunk coffins stacked on top of each other, where you can only lie down, not even sit properly. Sleeping there feels no different than lying in a grave. In submarines like USS Missouri, there are 135 crew members, but only 94 beds. That means beds are shared. This system is called hot bunking. When one sailor leaves for duty, another immediately takes his still warm bed. So the bed is never cold. Even your sleep doesn't belong to you. It's part of a shift system. There is no concept of day or night, because submarines operate hundreds of meters below the ocean. That's why humans must create artificial sleep cycles. Now you might wonder, how do so many people survive in one place for so long? What about food? When a submarine leaves for a mission, it carries up to 20,000 kilograms of food. Surprisingly, there's no dedicated storage. Food is spread throughout the submarine, under beds, in corridors, and crew members literally walk over it. In the beginning, fresh fruits, vegetables, and milk are available, but they must be consumed within the first few weeks. After that, it's all canned and frozen food. Still, food is considered extremely important, because it's the one thing that keeps morale high. If food becomes boring, depression can increase. That's why some long missions even include ice cream machines and steak nights. There are proper kitchens and chefs, but to reduce risk, all cooking is done on electric stoves and ovens. Another interesting fact, submarines don't have just 3 meals a day, but 4. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a late-night meal called mid-rats. This is served after midnight. Why? Because the environment inside is extremely stressful, and the human body burns more calories than usual. To keep energy levels up, An extra meal is necessary, and for those working night shifts, it's their main source of energy. Now comes the most critical part: oxygen. There are no windows to open for fresh air. It's literally a sealed metal tube. So where does oxygen come from? Storing oxygen cylinders for long periods is risky, since oxygen is flammable. So submarines use a system called electrolysis. They break down seawater, separate oxygen, and release hydrogen gas. An average person uses about 600 liters of oxygen daily. So for 130 crew members, the system must produce around 78,000 liters every day. It's like an underwater space station. If this system fails, crew members can start suffocating within minutes. But producing oxygen alone isn't enough. Humans also release carbon dioxide. If CO2 levels rise above 10%, it becomes extremely dangerous. That's why submarines use CO2 scrubbers. Air passes through towers, where a chemical called amine absorbs carbon dioxide. If that system fails, emergency canisters like soda lime or lithium hydroxide are used. They react with CO2 and turn it into solid compounds. But these are only temporary solutions. Water is another challenge. Even though submarines are surrounded by water, it's all salty. So seawater is purified using distillation or reverse osmosis. Even then, water use is strictly controlled. Showers last barely 60 seconds. In the middle of the ocean, every drop matters. Waste disposal is also extremely risky. Submarines are under such pressure that even a small leak can flood everything. Just like what happened with U-1206. Toilet waste is stored in tanks and then pumped out using high-pressure systems. The valve sequence must be perfect. One mistake, and seawater can blast inside. Solid waste is compacted, sealed in steel containers, and sometimes launched out using torpedoes. But beyond all systems, what about the human mind? Months without sunlight, almost no contact with family, same smells, same walls, same faces. Crew members can suffer from depression, anxiety, and claustrophobia. Even a small argument can become dangerous. That's why submarines simulate day and night using lights, white for day, red for night, to trick the brain. Because in the end, they still have to make life and death decisions. In October 1944, a submarine called USS Tang fired a torpedo. To a small calculation error, the torpedo turned back and hit the same submarine. Whether it's the toilet incident of U-1206 or a self-hit torpedo like USS Tang, these events prove one thing. Submarine life isn't just about fighting enemies. It's about fighting your own mind, your own machines, and the silent ocean, where even the smallest mistake means death. Don't forget to like and share, and thank you so much for your amazing comments.